welcome to Walking Stuff and Dead Thangs. I am Bird.
I'm Spaz.
And today's episode is...
It's killer.
Literally.
But, before we do that, I wasn't going to tell you this just because.
Oh, you weren't going to tell me something. Yay.
Guys, I would like to say, this past weekend, Bird here broke his cherry, came to the zombie walk in Toronto, all like face fucked and whatnot. First time. Did you have fun?
I always have fun the first time. And it was a bloody mess, too.
Oh. Yeah, but what was his name? Anyways, zombie walk. Good times, yes?
Oh, it was a fantastic time.
The MCs could have been better, and the fact that one of them was a vampire was a bit off.
Yeah.
That was...
Welcome to the Zombie Walk, where we now feature vampires.
And it's now a Halloween parade.
Yay.
You know. Those of you that watch this channel for wrestling know that PG ruined wrestling. PG is going to ruin the zombie walk. It is a thing. Couple shout outs to a couple of our friends in the Walker's Den. D, Crystal, your guys' family and whatnot. Some of our friends from Brampton. DeCarmo, Jibbles,
Ryan, and their friends and relatives and
stuff and things. Oh, and Amber, except her legs are too long and she walked faster than us, and so we saw her for a little bit of time. Reactions on the bus going to Toronto.
That was funny.
Speaking of, let's talk friggin' I won't say her name because stuff and things. One of our friends wasn't able to make it to the zombie walk because she had zombie makeup on. And because of this, bus drivers would not let her on the bus, and cab drivers would not give her a ride. So to the general amalgam known as Toronto Transit, fuck you. Other than that, good times had by all. Drizzly weather, which is good for zombies.
It was a little drizzly, but it was a little cold to start out with, but I think later on during the day, once the sun started coming out, and everybody like lots of crowds of people.
Never mind the crowd walking. The crowd watching was huge.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even expecting that, but I mean, like, I loved it.
You scared the children.
I scared children. I am an evil person, but I loved every second of it.
Bird likes to think he's scary. A little anecdote for a second. Bird goes around scaring a bunch of children. Most of them run. One of them walks right up to your painted face. Are you okay? Are you okay?
I've mastered the Walking Dead zombie growl, and this kid is just like, are you okay?
I will say it's also fun. The walk started at Nathan Phillips Square.
Yep.
We walked by Yonge and Dundas Square, where other things were happening, and people there couldn't be paid to give a fuck.
Nope.
Fucks were not given.
Hey, there's this big event at Yonge and Dundas Square. Come on down and come see it. Wait, what's that? There's a whole bunch of people marching and walking dressed up as zombies and stuff and things. Let's avert our attention over there.
In a that-wordly direction. For those of you that are curious, I will be putting up a separate video on this channel. There were a lot of pictures taken from the day. I'll find something appropriate, probably something zombie-related music, probably the Cranberries or the Pretty Reckless, because that's a thing. Pictures will be up. Not at the end of this video, but as a separate video on its own for anybody that is curious within the week at some point. Why? Oh. Who said you get to have a drink? Just because we're in your place doesn't mean you get to have a drink. Like, this is not a thing.
It was tasty.
There's more wet noises happening in this room than the entire episode of The Walking Dead, which we should get into! Speaking of wet noises and things that are gross, something that I wasn't quite sure about last week, I don't know whether I missed it or they just didn't show it. Bob did in fact get bit in the food bank, or the food bank, by that one really lame zombie that really looked like a dummy.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. Oh no, it was, but like even with their puppeting and whatever that they do on the show, usually it's better than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I've seen a few of them on like other previous episodes where clearly they're using a dummy because I mean, like, the camera's shooting right here, but there's someone down here holding a puppet going. Aah.
No, but literally when Bob came up out of the water, he might as well have said, "Look at me holding up this puppet."
Yeah.
It almost looked like Ahmed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just saying.
Silence! I kill you.
So Ahmed the undead terrorist? That's probably that's a touchy subject this week. I'm gonna guess.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, you see what I did there? Mutual respect and for the stuff that happened in Ottawa. Terrible, horrible, and people are shitty human beings in real life. Anyways,
I'd like to put a shout out to the soldiers and stuff like that, to the people of Ottawa, because I mean, like, that was just absolutely horrendous.
Well, Quebec too. The Quebec had things.
Well, yeah, Quebec, but I mean, like, there's a bigger standard from, you know, a soldier being hit by a car, targeted,
yes,
being hit by a car, and a soldier being on guard at the National War Monument being shot dead. That's a little bit more of a drastic scale. I mean, like, it's not that the other guys were unimportant. I'm just saying that this guy was...
It's a bigger statement.
Yes.
But yeah, the funerals happened in Hamilton. Was it yesterday?
I think it might have been yesterday. Did the whole Highway of Heroes drive?
As they should.
Yes. I think every soldier that dies should be going through that kind of respect.
Yeah. Anyways, very, very unfortunate. Our thoughts and hearts and minds go out to all those affected in Ottawa in general. And all that sort of thing. And not to be cold, but we move on to slightly cooler, happier things like TV that's fake and not as depressing. Bob, when he sort of announced that he got bit, to the people that were eating him.
Yeah.
And he was kind of crazy. I love how he pulled off the crazy. He's sitting there, you think he's crying, and then you eventually realize he's laughing. And I saw a video somewhere on Facebook, and it's all these things. It's kind of like an if Walking Dead was on Netflix. It's like if profanity was allowed, yada yada yada. How the scenes would look. They're the same scenes, but it's just profanity basically inserted, and it's basically Bob going, "Damn fuck now," or no, it's "tainted meat, motherfucker."
Yeah, I could see him doing that.
Here's my question though, because they've never really directly hit on this on point. They kind of touched on it when they got into the Well Walker a couple seasons ago. We know that no matter what, you become a zombie when you die because everybody has the virus. Mm-hmm. We know that if a zombie bites you, you're going to die right then and there and become a zombie quicker.
Well, not right then and there. It does take a period of time, but I mean, like, it does...
It accelerates the process. They've never really given us a distinct answer on what happens if we bite a zombie. Like, I'm pretty sure we can all draw our own conclusions, but they've never directly addressed it until now. Because they freaked out. They thought they were going to die on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
And then the quick and simple answer of, don't worry, we cooked them, it's fine.
Well, that's, for lack of better terms, a touchy subject, too. Because with anything, like E. coli or anything like that, the viruses and the bacteria does die and be eliminated with heat. But there's literally nothing we can speculate on the whole zombie disease, on everything that's going on there. But which the whole tainted meat thing just, it was funny and it was a good kick at the beginning, but it just kind of became irrelevant at the end.
Well, it did.
Which we'll get to.
Here's my thing though, because by virtue of the way that they've learned about this disease, you kind of almost erase that idea that getting bit by a zombie turns you into a zombie. No, getting bit by a zombie kills you. And anytime you die in any way, shape, or form, you're going to be a zombie.
Yeah.
Like, it's written in your DNA, or it's written in all of our everybody in the show, I should say, but it's written in all of our DNA that we'll all be zombies when we die. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not the vampire theory where you get bitten by a vampire and that's what makes you.
Well, it started out as that.
Yes.
It started out at that, and then it progressed.
Yeah, but how did we progress to the point where just everybody on the planet has the disease now, and everybody will become a zombie eventually?
Well,
but I don't see.
It probably happened long before this entire situation happened.
It was probably dormant.
Well, it was dormant because, I mean, like, if you remember in season 1, I believe it was, when they were at the CDC, and the albino dude ended up telling everybody what was going on.
Mapping the brain and all that stuff.
Yeah, clearly he knew what was going on, and this kind of a study would take years. So,
but also, like, and I'm not going to go way, way far afield here, we don't have a definite timeline, unless I've missed something, we don't have a definite timeline as to how long Rick was in that hospital. Because it was pretty dilapidated by the time he woke up.
Yeah.
So he could reasonably have been gone a year, maybe 2 years. Not saying that that's time.
I would say anywhere between 4 months to a year and a half.
Well, it was long enough for them to completely uproot from the city, go find another place, set down roots, for lack of a better term, and like have a comfortable living condition for a long period of time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anywhere between 4 months.
Yeah.
And
Time is really hard to gauge in this show because, like, although they mention winter a couple of times, they've never actually had a winter.
No.
You have to think that the zombies being dead bodies would be slowed down by the winter. Like
that is the theory.
Up.
I don't know if any of you have actually played the Walking Dead game, which is based off of the comics, on a different timeline, I think it is. But there is a theory that's tossed around, and there is a situation in I believe it's season 2 where they're talking about going north and staying into where it's cold because it does slow the zombies down. It does.
Well, they're dead, so they'd literally be freezing.
They would, but I mean, like, especially with living people, you get cold enough, your muscles start to shut down, and everything else, your blood flow, the circulation starts to slow down. Everything about you starts slowing down. They may not have a pulse, and they may not have any kind of nervous system that has, synapses going off saying.
But ability is still limited.
Yeah, ability is still limited. Because, I mean, like, if you're not having anything to, protect yourself being the dead, frostbite still happens. Regardless of whether
things fall off.
Yeah.
No zombie sex.
No.
The other thing I was going to say is if the guys from Terminus were so worried about being, quote-unquote, infected by the tainted meat, how educated were they about the zombie situation? Like, did they know that they already have it? Like, have they come to the same bank of knowledge that, like, Rick and all them know? Because
I don't think so. Because if that were the case and everybody was infected, regardless of whether or not they cooked it, then
it wouldn't matter because you already got it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like,
so they're not nearly as educated on their situation as we are.
No, they weren't. They were completely ignorant.
I just thought it was funny that here's this guy who's like half out of it, delusional, missing a leg, and he, to use a pun, got a leg up on the people that were eating him.
Yeah.
So good for Bob. Gabriel's confession, and I get to do this a little bit. I called this one when when we talked last weekend, when we had a conversation with other people in our group about, what does the, you're gonna burn for this mean, and a lot of people that we know speculated that either before or during the zombie apocalypse he might have done some creepy, priesty, rapey type stuff. And I said, that's super awkward, just saying. But I said last week, and I'll say it again this week, I would have been disappointed if they had gone that way, because it's very cliche, and cliche is not what I expect from this show. And it was a lot, and much to my surprise, it was a lot simpler. It was kind of along the lines of what I called last week.
Not plugged in.
That lamp is dead.
No, it's just I see what you did there.
Technical difficulties, folks. 1 second. That made such a difference.
I just like the green glow in the background.
To each their own.
And,
Stuff and things. Yeah. He's holding the hammer.
He's holding Tyrese's hammer.
For all of you that are all excited about all the announcements from Marvel this week, there can be a Thor reference if you really need to. But no, just the idea that this is a guy who's not squirrely, he's not like all creepy, whatever, he doesn't have anything to hide, he's just not able to process this horrible thing that he had to do to survive.
Yeah.
And like he said it, he thinks he's damned, he thinks he's cursed, he thinks that God sent these last remaining survivors on Earth to kill him because he's damned or cursed, or he's going to be punished by some sort of, higher power. Like we talked last week about how somebody at this stage in the game, in the apocalypse, could have any belief in a higher power anymore. Well, this guy is looking at the more vengeful side of that idea, Rick.
God's not going to help us. This is him punishing us.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think throughout the whole thing, now that that's sort of been confirmed, I think we're supposed to feel bad for him because they, as well as the audience, figured this guy was up to no good, or at least had been up to no good. When you see him like completely fucking broken on the floor, especially when Sasha's got him at knife point, because she's got Sasha's not okay.
No.
But when they realize that this guy he's not an asshole, he's not a bad guy, he's not skeevy, he's just fucking broken. And the fact that he is still alive is a minor miracle at this point. Sorry, I have to say this. For him to be as fucked up as he is, and as innocent as you can be in this environment, to be as innocent as he is, and as fucked up and as meek and as mousy as he is, and still be alive, is a bit of a stretch. It's one that I'm going to forgive the show because it's doing what it needs to do.
Yeah.
But it's on a string how much I am okay with that. But I don't know. I guess he's earned his place in the group. When they move on, I guess he'll go with them. I don't really know. Does he serve the group any real purpose?
No.
Other than when they're there and he knows where stuff is. But like if they're moving on, if you're Rick, do you adopt him into the group?
I would like to, but I would just find him as too much of a liability. He's too sheltered from the.
I don't think he would contribute anything negative to the group. I just don't think he would contribute anything at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, as much as a lot of people were willing to string him up and thought he was guilty of something, he actually wasn't guilty of anything other than having a conscience in the time of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So Gabriel, for as much longer as you are in the show, hats off to you. I was right. Move on. The confrontation that we knew was going to happen at some point, because the group can only have one leader. Mm-hmm. You knew Rick and Abe were going to go at it at one point or another.
Oh yeah.
The way they did it was kind of thrown together, like the fact that Abe
they rushed it.
They did rush. Oh, they rushed it immensely. But the fact that we're there in the middle of the night, we already know there's zombies. We already know there's cannibals out there. This is stuff that we've already established since Terminus. And all of a sudden tonight, it's going to make a difference whether we leave now or whether we leave 10 hours from now. That was not a very strong hill for Abe to stand on as far as an argument. I gotta say it.
No.
But as far as the storyline, I don't know why this serves any purpose whatsoever. The way they got Abe to stay an extra 12 hours was to say that if they stayed until morning, what's her name, the little lesbian chick whose name we can never remember, and Glenn and Maggie would go with him regardless and leave their group. Now, that's 3 more mouths for Abe's group to feed, because they've been operating as a group of 3 for how long? That cuts Rick's group in half. That leaves the 3 that have decided to go with them with a brand new leader that they really don't have that much experience or time working with. I don't see how that benefits anybody. I get it. It's like Abe would want more people protecting Eugene because Eugene is the commodity at this point that they're trying to get to Washington. Eugene, as far as like a soldier or a survivor getting to Washington, doesn't really contribute very much. I think he's kind of overwhelmed by life, which is something that the rest of them have already gotten over a long time ago.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like.
But he is smart. He does
know things.
He does know a lot of things.
But as far as being a survivor, he's kind of dumb. Like when he's talking about anything other than solving the problem, he kind of sounds like he's struggling.
Yeah. I possibly do know, but I'd have to think about it for a long while.
What he contributes to the group now?
Yeah.
It's just hard because the fighting and the defending is not his place. When he gets to Washington, and this is where we go on that big assumption that when they get to Washington, it's still going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep hammering that into the ground. Their main thing is they want to get to these strongholds in Washington that were in place before the apocalypse. Guess what else was in place before the apocalypse? The world. Guess what else was in place before the apocalypse? The prison. Guess what else? I won't say the campground, they set that up themselves, but Woodbury was a thing.
Herschel's Farm.
Herschel's Farm was a thing. It's in many pieces. Get a leg up on everything. But I have to...
in the situation.
Yeah. I have to keep hammering this point home. They're going to what they think is still there. Makes me think of the line in Independence Day when he needs his dad to drive him to Washington because he knows what the aliens are doing. And the dad turns to him and says, "What? What's your hurry? You know, you think you're going to get to Washington and it's not going to be there? Well, that's a very real possibility at this point.
Yeah.
Like we've gone several years now.
Yeah.
Even if zombies didn't take it over, even if people with worse intentions haven't taken it over already, it'd be worn down by weather, the elements, deterioration, any number of natural things."
I think in that, especially this being in the States, I think their highest priority of preservation would be Washington. Have someone in power of the country, keep him protected, keep him safe, keep the general area that he's going to be in secure, so that...
Yeah, but how corrupt is the... Okay, and I'm not just saying this because it's Americans, let me be clear on that, but how corrupt is any government? Once the apocalypse happens, somebody's selling tickets to that stronghold, if it's still even a thing.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Guaranteed. Like they're going to take as many people as they can in, but they would have to be a productive part of that little bit of society.
I don't even think it would have to be productive to the society. If you get the wrong corrupt people in a government environment that control access to that stronghold, well, you want into this? What can you do for me?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think they have the community mindset that even somebody like the governor had in his own way, that Herschel had in his own way, that Rick has now. Like, you're thinking that they want to build up an entire society. No, they're going to see, I have this big, large asset that I can make other people do basically whatever the fuck I want. Here's the other thing, too. If it's a big, like, industrial or military stronghold, secure, locked down, how much is it dependent on power? How are you going to get in? And at this point, now that they're out of power, are the people that are in there trapped?
This is a possibility.
I just thought of that one just now, actually.
I was just thinking about it, like, especially it being the White House with the president and stuff like that. There's going to be a large military-scale operation saying, you know what, we have to protect this guy. And the White House is probably going to be one of the most secure places in America at that point.
It is going to be, but does
it mean it'll...
Like, it's a lame metaphor, but does your cocoon become your tomb? Like, if you're locked down so hard, you lose power. Now, instead of saving yourself, you've trapped yourself.
Yeah.
So say Abe and Rick and the rest of them do get to the stronghold and do open it up and go in there for all the supplies and whatnot. Not only are there no supplies left because whoever's in there has eaten them all, but whoever's in there is itching to get out.
Yeah.
May not have, with the power situation, may not have seen daylight for 5 years. May have become like raccoon people. This could be a thing.
It could be.
So
I don't think so.
So we got zombies, cannibals, raccoon people.
Fucking hair.
They ate my giant garbage can.
God damn it!
Carl was supposed to take care of them. God damn it, Carl, you had one job.
There was actually a lot of Carl cosplays at the zombie walk.
Oh yeah, there was, and most of them were girls, which is really funny. But I just have to say this on a lighter note: the idea of the two main like authority figures in Rick and Abe going head to head, and the one that stops them is Glenn, who's like here,
knee-high to a grasshopper in comparison.
Yeah. And well, the other little girl is like shorter than Glenn, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Lying down, I'm not shorter than Glenn. Anyways, so in the end, Glenn convinces Abe to stay because Glenn and Maggie and the other little lesbian chick, who doesn't have a name, apparently, according to us, they make a deal, they stay another 12 hours, and they end up fucking off anyway. The guys from Terminus leave Bob, legless Bob, on the front doorstep like a perverted present for the group. The group goes out to hunt them. They come to the church to get all the weak ones, the priest and Carl and Judith and Tyrese, who's not weak but is weak in...
Emotionally, he's mentally weak.
He doesnn't want to
he's getting there.
Yeah.
But he's not.
He's getting to the point where when I absolutely have to, I will. Yeah. But it needs to be a little quicker than that. Tyrese needs to be the big, giant, scary refrigerator man that he is. But they get, taken from behind by Rick and his group. Yeah, I know. What I find funny, and I saw this on so many chat rooms, when Gareth gets shot in the hand and he kind of bends over and cradles his hand, so many people in comments and whatever were like, who shot him in the dick?
Yeah, I was talking to people
at the walk.
No, not just at the walk. I was actually talking to a buddy of mine. I play League of Legends, and he was actually asking me about that. He's just like, "Who got shot in the dick?" And I'm like, "No,
nobody got shot in the dick." That would have been funny.
He's like, "Didn't Garrett get shot in the dick?" And I was just like, "No, he got shot in the hand because he went to go like this and went,
yeah.
Look at me now, ma."
But
he was cradling his hand close to his body, which, being knelt over, looked like he was grabbing his junk. So
could have easily, it's just easily been like a shot, say, in the stomach, but you know.
Yeah, but
people being people, and people suck.
Shot me right in the dick.
But yeah, once they got all the former Terminus guys on their knees, just fucking slaughter. Slaughter.
Oh, I got a chubby during that scene.
That's awkward.
No, it felt so right. Because once Rick sat there and he was just like...
you just didn't make it any better right there. You know that, right?
I know. When Rick sat there and he was just like, or stood there, and he's like, I got the machete with the red handle that I promised I was going to kill you with. Now watch me use it.
I think what was perfect about that was Gareth still thought he could negotiate his way out of the situation.
Oh, yeah.
He thought, well, because Gareth, the way, and I don't want to say I admire the guy, because obviously he's fucked in the head, but the way he spoke to them and the way he
articulated,
the way he went about the choices that he's made in his life, you could tell he had a lot to say to them that would have convinced, or would have been designed to convince them to come over to his ways or whatever. Like, they're all insane.
Yeah.
But he was a well-spoken guy.
Yeah.
And when you know you're well-spoken, you know, you think you can talk yourself out of any situation. And he thought he had him. He's like, Rick, I know you're a good guy. You could have shot us from behind a while ago. There must be a reason you didn't. And Rick just looks at him and said, yeah, I didn't want to waste the fucking bullets. It's just slaughter and friggin' even little Sasha, there was stabby. Oh.
There was 3 of them in the church. There was Garrett, and there was 2 other people.
There was Garrett and 5 others. The two guys they shot in the head right away to get their attention.
Yes, I'm referring to the last little bit when it was
Garrett and 3 more.
Yeah. And
there was the one that Tyrese had the moment in the shack with 2 episodes ago when he tried to hurt Judith.
He was dead.
Did he? Was it?
He was dead. He killed him. In the shack, he killed him.
Did he, or did he just beat the fuck out of him? Because the guy that was in the church had a really swollen up face. And because remember he was listing off, he's like, all your warriors have gone off to try and find us, and I know who's left. And he goes like, you know, Carl and Carl and Judith and the minister and not Sasha, the other one. And then he's like, oh, and then there's so and so's favorite, Tyrese.
Oh.
Because the last guy,
Tyrese thought he might have killed him, but he was just
the one that refused to kneel. Like even Gareth knelt in front of Rick.
Mm-hmm.
But the one with the swollen face is like, no, we don't have to kneel. Because like if they're gonna, like, I guess, you know what? As much as these guys are assholes, I can't understand that.
Yeah.
Because
anyways, why am I going to kneel?
Because like, yeah, you can kneel or you can not kneel, and these guys are going to kill us or they're not, and that's really the mindset you'd have to have at this point.
Yeah.
Like threatening to kill somebody, I don't think would hold much weight at this point. Going along and threatening to kill either Carl or Judith or Sasha in front of Tyrese would hold weight, but putting a gun to somebody's face and threatening them that you're going to kill them, really, other than to say you lived another day, what are they living for at this point?
No.
I don't want to be like totally morbid on that, but like, it's a thing. And the last little bit, if you want to say, you know, Terminus tried to destroy them and they took everything back, like they saved themselves, they took Terminus away from them, they killed the Terminus people. The last piece of the puzzle that they took back from Terminus was like, alright, everything you took from us we got back, had to be the moment when Michonne reached into one guy's backpack and pulled out her sword.
Oh.
That was just like,
bam, right in the feels.
Yeah. Well, as much like Michonne doesn't really do feels.
No, she doesn't do feels, but I mean, like, she went without her sword. You can tell from the last.
Well, yeah, she kept on. Like, she kept
going for it. It wasn't there, and she's like, oh.
And then, like, but it was funny though, because whoever, like, remember, like we said the last episode, she wasn't really doing much, and all she had was that one random kill in the woods during the day. She went for her sword, and then she didn't have it, so she just pounded him like with the butt of her gun, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
There was another thing that she did too, just after they left Terminus, I think. When I think she had the sheath or something. She had something that was part of that sword.
Yeah, because they were talking about it.
Yeah, and she had like 2 sticks, sharp pointed sticks.
Oh, when they made the weapons when they were trying to get out of the container. But no, I want to believe that when she reached for her knife and it wasn't there, she was beating the fuck out of that zombie with even a little more exaggeration because she's pissed off that she doesn't have her sword.
I wish I had my sword.
Yes, exactly like that. And you know, we've tap danced around it long enough. Bob was a thing. So, in that vein,
the better one, because you know Talking Dead has a shitty one.
indeed. What can we say about Bob?
He was a very optimistic person.
In the end, in the beginning, he was troubled.
No, he was very troubled. I mean, like, he was alone for a long period of time. But I mean, like, once he found the group and he got to, you know, be a part of them and get to know them, he started, you know, opening up a little bit more.
He did. He was the one that had the alcohol trouble too.
Yes.
One of our first, like, maybe not the first time we saw him, but the first time he was, like, actually storyline wise a part of something. His actions of wanting to go get alcohol potentially or quite legitimately killed Beth's boyfriend there, who we knew for 5 minutes, and we miss him terribly, of course.
Wait, who?
Yeah, exactly. But that's also a thing. Beth doesn't like boys. she likes Daryl and probably is going to chase the little lesbian chick. But that's okay. We're in favor of this.
He had his optimism at the end with Sasha.
Oh my god. I think... I don't want to say this because this makes me sound like an asshole. I think out of all of them, he knew that they were doomed. And that's why he made himself push so much optimism.
I can...
Because I think if whoever in the group, like, it's good to have optimism.
Oh yeah.
It's bad to have optimism to the point where it fucks with you, right? But like...
Well, I've been saying it since the new season started that if there was going to be anybody dying that had a major part in the series, it was going to either be Daryl, or not Daryl, it was either going to be Sasha or Bob.
And unfortunately, I do agree that it would be them. I never got attached to anybody from Woodbury because of what happened when they joined the prison. And I know, I think I've beaten this over the head in the past 2 episodes we've done. Everybody that they brought over from Woodbury after Woodbury was not a thing anymore. Oh, your computer did something.
Yeah.
Everybody that they brought over from Woodbury seemed like disposable characters. And that's a horrible thing to say when you're talking about human beings.
Yeah.
But storyline-wise, they really were. They brought over a whole shitload of people so that anytime there was a zombie slaughter, look at all the bodies piling up. This is so horrible, but we don't have to take out any main characters.
Yeah.
And they didn't... The one big shortcoming of the show, if there is one, because there isn't very many, but the one shortcoming is they never, at least for me, shook that feeling of the people from Woodbury being disposable characters, which is why I'm sorry. Like, I know we're trying to develop Sasha a little more now. She still has that feeling. Tyrese, and even though he has this like amazing connection with Judith and with Rick because of Judith and all that, if Tyrese dies or if Sasha dies, like.
Yeah.
It sounds horrible. Like I'm not gonna.
But that can be easily remedied, because if they do keep them onto the show, their storylines and their character stories will continue to build with the series. The only reason we find them as disposable as we do now is because we don't find ourselves relatable to them. We don't see them as main characters. We see them as fair weather shots.
Well, Tyrese at this point has been involved in multiple aspects of the story. And if any of the 3 of them, it should be Tyrese that we're more invested in now.
Yeah.
Because we have every reason. We saw the pain he went through with losing his girlfriend and the other guy to the burning. We saw the conflict that he went through when he realized it was Carol. We saw how attached and protective he became to Judith, how close he is to his sister, how close he is to Rick now. Mm-hmm. Like, there's every reason why that feeling should have shaken off on Tyrese, and at least him, even if not Sasha, but at least him, should feel like more of a permanent part of the cast. And I'm sorry, it might be just me. Put it down in the comment section below if you disagree with me, but he's still got it, to me.
I don't know. I personally, I've become a little bit more relatable to him. Because I remember when we first seen him, when they ended up going through, for lack of better terms, the back door of the prison.
Yes.
And Rick just lost Lori, and he was
not okay.
He was not okay in the least. And in the process of his entire mental breakdown, here comes Tyrese, Sasha, and a few other people, which one gone immediately.
Yeah.
One
was they weren't helped.
Well, it was the two. It was the kid. There was a kid with them.
They weren't helped along in the situation by the fact that they brought in somebody that was infected. So for Rick, that had to be a trigger right there.
Oh yeah, that would have definitely.
But on the other side of the coin, last time he encountered a group, it was freaking the governor and all that.
Yeah.
And you can't really blame him for a lot. Like I said, look, we know Tyrese now. We know he's a pussycat, but like he's fucking Rick Shithouse. If he wanted to fuck shit up, he could.
Oh yeah.
And after you just
that's why he uses the hammer.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about his.
Thor. Put the hammer down. I see what you did there. Imagine Thor in the apocalypse. Imagine like what was I saying? What was
Odin?
No.
Loki? Are we talking about like a Thor character here?
Zombie Hulk.
Oh.
Alright. Anyways, back on point. What the hell was I talking about? Relatable characters, such and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bad. Like I'm more invested in somebody like Abraham, who's spent even less time on the show than those guys have.
Yeah, but he has a little bit more of a role to play in the story, I find. Just because of Eugene. If it wasn't for Eugene, I would just find him just as useless as everybody else. Yes, he's a big military type, but I mean, like, look at the other military types that have been in the show. Every single one of them have died.
Yeah. I'm gonna laugh if it turns out that Eugene's full of shit.
I kind of sense it coming, to be honest. I kind of think that he's smart enough to come up with this theory and
make it sound good.
And make it sound absolutely.
Because I'm sorry, Abraham.
To probably what is the most secure place in the United States at this point in time.
That there would be something there.
That there would be something there. So he's come up with this entire scenario, this entire plan that he has, this backstory, everything. As long as you can come up with that, you can sell it.
Or they legitimately have it and
it doesn't work.
Yeah. Or it kills everybody, like I said a couple weeks ago, because everybody has the virus.
Yeah.
And that's just the end of the world. Fin.
This is true.
I don't know what's next because your thing turned off there. I don't know if we have anything else really, do we?
I don't think we have anything.
Oh, yes we do. At the end of the episode, friggin' Michonne's out there and the minister's out there and Russell in the woods. Out comes Daryl.
Oh yeah.
Daryl says, "Hey, you guys can come out." Doesn't show who's behind him. Cut to.
Yeah, it stops. Now, I know it's not Beth. Well, it could be Beth.
Here's my thought.
And when they had the preview for the next episode at the end of
this one, it was all about Beth.
It was all about Beth. But my theory is that entire situation, because it looked like she was back in Atlanta. Yes. From when she was in the hospital and she's looking out the window.
She was taken away in a car, so there's no telling where she might be.
I just think it might have been Atlanta. Yeah. But this could have also been something previous.
Yes. My thought, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, you remember when Woodbury was destroyed? Mm-hmm. And then we went on with the prison story for a while. And then they went back to the moment that Woodbury was destroyed and showed everything that's been going on with the governor.
Yes. I think that's what they're doing with Beth. They're showing the backstory of when she
gets kidnapped.
When she gets kidnapped.
So they're going to pause. They're going to pause right there where Michonne saw Daryl in the woods, and he said, come on out, whatever. They're going to backtrack, and the next 2 or 3 episodes are going to be what happened to Beth, and where she met up with Carol and Daryl. Carol. And it's going to bring us right back to that come on out guys moment, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah. I don't think the other one's Carol though.
I don't see Beth was kidnapped.
Beth was kidnapped.
Unless it's something where like Carol dies in the efforts to save Beth, but I don't see after all that they've done just in this season so far to build up Carol, I don't see them killing her off. I could be wrong.
You never know.
I could be wrong.
But I think it is one of those situations where because if it was Carol would just be like, "Hey guys, I'm back." Daryl wouldn't be the front man being like, "It's okay, come on."
Or the other option is Daryl and Carol could have run into Morgan somewhere along the way, and Morgan helped them save Beth.
That is a possibility.
Although I don't see Morgan. The only thing I would say against that is Morgan. The last 2 times we saw him, Morgan was not okay.
No, he was very mentally unstable.
And it took him a long time to recognize.
And I want to talk about Morgan for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
When Morgan first comes into the episode of the second or the first episode of the season, and he's looking at there's a mark on the.
It kind of looks like a cartoon character with glasses.
I've seen it more of a circle with an X, like a very, very wide spread out X. And he smiled. I'm not sure if he was smiling because he saw the no sanctuary sign, or if he was smiling because he's seen that. But what I noticed is when Garrett was coming back to the church, he ended up moving from a tree, and there was another symbol there.
Because they were marking.
And I'm going to try to superimpose this somewhere into this video, where just to prove a point. I could be wrong. A lot of times
it's been known to happen.
But I think that there's a connection with those symbols.
Oh,
but it's just a matter of who's putting those symbols there. That Morgan's recognizing these things. He's feeling happy about it. Either A, it's because this looks fresh. Someone's put this here. There's more people, more intelligent people, not zombies.
Well, it shows that there's a bunch of steps too. When you see that there's the terminus sign, so somebody after the apocalypse made this plan and went ahead with it, and somebody else has come along more recently than that to say, no, this plan doesn't work. It makes it feel more recent.
Yeah. But then there was also a lot of symbols and stuff that Morgan did when he was back in Rick's hometown. He had all the drawings and all the maps and everything all over the walls. So maybe they're markers that he put out.
Maybe he's slowly mapping the area.
He could be doing that. And that is a very big possibility. But I would like to think that because he is traveling, he hasn't been out there yet. He's following someone. He's following someone. That's what I honestly believe he's doing.
If it's not going to be Carol, and it's not going to be the guys from Terminus, because they're very not okay now,
No.
I still can't shake the feeling that some way or another, Morgan is going to lose his shit more than he already has, and somehow become the next victim, or not the next villain, or at least the next dangerous element that they... I don't want to say that, because...
I've seen previews, well, not previews, but I mean, like, there's been clips for teasers for the season before the season was released.
Yeah.
And they were showing a villain that wasn't Garrett.
Okay.
It was this white guy, he had this pointy little mustache, and he kind of looked like a postmodern version of Captain Hook.
Okay.
And I think he's supposed to be the new villain for this season. Now, maybe there's a connection between him and Morgan.
Maybe he's Morgan's representative and Morgan is trying to stay shielded away.
Maybe. Or maybe he's just following signs. Different kinds of signs than what the Terminus was.
The other thing that I thought of, because they are working a lot with flashbacks in the last little while. The thing that I was thinking, we could see a flashback to when Rick saw Morgan in whatever city he used to live in. Is it Atlanta?
I think Macon?
Yeah.
I think it was Macon.
We might
Michonne was from Macon.
Yes. Because as you say, he had all those maps and he had like everything all marked off, and he had certain ways of marking off which houses were safe and whatnot. We may see a flashback of a conversation that we haven't already seen before between Rick and Morgan. It's like, hey, if you ever see this, then you'll know we've been there.
Yeah.
And it could have been, because the original idea that I got was Rick crossing off the Terminus sign, making sure people don't go there. By the way, we are survivors and we have gone this way.
Yeah.
And leaving it for the next people. And if we see that sort of a flashback, which they have done before, like they've referenced flashbacks to things, if it's something that Rick left specifically for Morgan, because remember originally he was following him by walkie-talkie until the walkie-talkie died.
Yeah.
So he found another way that doesn't rely on batteries per se.
Yeah. And I
but
guess
I would
he
hate to
also
see-
learned things from Daryl doing tracking and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Putting on markings on the trees.
Yeah.
Excellent form of communication without, communicating, so to
Yeah,
speak.
my only thing is if they do go a route like that, I could still see it being like he goes crazy. The one thing he remembers is how to find Rick. But now, Rick looks delicious.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. Because we've seen one group that has gotten so desperate they've turned into cannibalism. That's not to say that necessarily somebody else hasn't as well.
Yeah, this is true.
I think we've done it. I think that's a thing.
I think that's a thing.
That's a thing. Walking Dead episode 3. Pretty badass. Lots of gore and interesting things to talk about. I will have pictures up from the zombie walk. Bird busted his cherry. Go, buddy. Anyways, but that's been us. He's Bird. I'm Spaz. What do you got something else to say? You're doing a thing.
Who's the badass and who's the bitch?
I just fell right down there, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Allow me to pick you back up. Rick. Rick is the badass.
Rick with honor, I will say that I'm agreeing with you on Rick.
Okay.
But with honorable mention to Sasha.
Yeah.
Because she went super stab happy.
Oh. Never piss off a woman.
Who's the bitch? I gotta go with, even though we like him a little bit more now, I gotta go with the minister, because he just...
Yeah.
He basically spent... Not that you can blame him, I'm not saying that, but he basically spent the entire episode cowering and crying and such.
I couldn't have said it better.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but...
No, he's not a bad guy, but I mean, like, he is
bitch.
a pretty big pussy.
Well, you are what you eat.
He's a religious man of the Catholic? Christian faith?
I think it's funny that... Okay, I do have to say this, and this will be in the bloopers or something. Bob, who got eaten before he died under a carving of the Last Supper. Good night, everybody.
Good night!